Hey guys, it's Yogi here with round 3 of the AOR GT3 Tier 1 League. This is all for the PC platform. Unfortunately, we don't have the first 2 rounds that I can put up here on the channel. The first round I was actually absent for. I didn't actually make it because of other commitments. And then round 2, I unfortunately screwed up my recording settings. Therefore, I don't have the first 2 rounds to give to you guys. So we're starting off this season 11 with round 3 here on the channel. The season has been done, dusted. The races happened towards the end of last year, so these aren't live, but myself and also FisiFan were doing the live commentary and live streaming these races. Season 12 is coming up towards the end of the month, I believe. That's roughly the date that we're kind of aiming for it. And if you're looking to sign up to the AOR League, I'll provide a link down in the description below with details for Season 12 down there. But otherwise, thanks very much for tuning in and enjoy the coverage.
Hello everyone and welcome to another league race in the AOR PC GT3 League on Podcast 2. This is PC Tier 1 as per usual. My name is Fizzy and I'm going to be taking you through this very special race, and we'll explain in just a moment why it's so very special. But with me in the commentary box again is the man, the podcast information person, I don't know. It's Yogi.
Thank you very much. Welcome guys to the stream. Very much looking forward to another week here back in the commentary box. Interesting intro there, Fizzy. But this is going to be proving to be a very difficult and tough race. Very, very much looking forward to seeing how this one is going to play out.
Indeed, and well, the reason it is a very, very special race. There are several reasons actually. The first one is quite clear. We are racing at the Nurburgring combined circuit. It is a mix of the Nurburgring GP circuit, but that's not where the drivers are going to spend most of their time. That is going to be out on the good old green hell of the Nordschleife. Man, there's got only 11 laps of this race, but it's going to be so challenging. This track is so long. The drivers will have to have done a lot of practice throughout the week to get ready for this. Just to remember where to go when they're out in the Nordschleife. So that will be a challenge, certainly, for every single driver on the grid tonight.
100%. Obviously, the Nordschleife being very, very infamous, tight, twisty, very long circuit as well. It's going to be very difficult for a lot of the cars to actually overtake, and we aren't going to be having a qualifying session in this race. Instead, it's going to be a 1.5 hours long race, and the grid will be determined in reverse order of the current championship standings. So it's going to mix things up with some of the guys who have been more successful so far in the season, starting at the back of the grid, and they're going to have to try and work their way through somehow on the Nordschleife, where it's not too great for overtaking. There's a couple of sections where it's possible, but it's very, very difficult. And then obviously you've got the GP section because we're on the combined layout, so there's some overtaking opportunities there, but it's definitely going to be one that is going to test patience and people's endurance.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, well, in my opinion, the Nordschleife is the greatest challenge in motorsport, pretty much, at least in terms of tracks that the league racing games have access to, as far as I know. So the lights are actually out, but we are of course going to have a formation lap. There was a car was stood in third place on the grid that has seemed to be disappeared, or maybe
Mr. Van Olmen.
Okay, so it might have a disconnection issue, unfortunately. That means we are down to 23 starters for this race, it looks like. Of course, without a qualifying session, that means the drivers will have to jumble themselves up into the right order. And it looks like that is going pretty well so far. Luckily, we're not going to do the whole Nordschleife as a formation lap. Don't worry about that. We're going to just do a little bit of the of the GP layout, and then we'll be underway. A few little things about the championship. We've had 2 races, of course, so far in this 10-race season. Jadier is leading the way in the championship. He's got 101 points out of 102 possible points so far this season. He's only missing 1 pole position bonus point for the second round last week, when who was it that got pole last week? It was Dalking, wasn't it?
It was, I believe. He's going to be starting 19th this time round.
Yeah, that means of course Tajada is going to be starting at the back of the field because of the because of leading the championship in this championship reverse order grid. Zenvo is actually second in the championship with 2 very consistent races, both 5th place finishes in the first 2 rounds. He's got 56 points, so it's quite a gap already up to Jadir. And then Dalking only 1 point behind him with 55, with a 2nd place and an 11th place after some unfortunate issues in round 2. Villalobos only 1 further points behind as well, with 54 in 4th place, with 1 podium to his name. And then Benizili, who took the podium on his debut in the first round, with 49 points in 5th. We got Leon the Sick One, ADS, Suomi, Cleon, and Mali rounding up the top 10 in the championship, and that means they're going to be the drivers starting towards the back of the field. Some of those guys are not actually present. I believe Cleon and Mali are missing at least. We are missing Dihaidi as well, which is a pretty big one, even though he has had 2 DNFs so far this season. But of course, based on last season, we know how fast Dihaidi can be. And of course, if he had turned up today, he would have been starting right at the front of the field. So quite unfortunate that he is missing. But Yogi, the cars are now moving, and it's not going to be too long until we get a race underway.
That's exactly correct. We did have a little bit of a car park situation there, whilst the guys were just sorting themselves out into the correct order that Fizzy just gave us very kindly. But now that we are in that order, everyone seems to be rolling quite nicely. So the formation point is just after the Schumacher S's, and then the actual rolling start is going to be on the back straight towards the chicane. So they're going to have 3-4 corners before they're actually onto the Nordisk Life section. So if anyone's going to be trying to make any quick moves to gain a position at the very start, they're going to have to do it very, very quickly before I imagine the cars are going to start settling into a kind of a single file and yeah, kind of more like a flowing GT3 train going through the actual the Nordisk Life section.
Oh, there's been an issue on the formation lap. Oh, there's been contact between the green Lambo and one of the Mercedes cars.
And that's not good, because JK's actually just gone as well. He's actually started the race.
JK has actually launched because he was at the acceleration zone, so the race is underway technically, and the cars are streaming towards the start of the race. Man, that's a mess. Just not what we're really used to seeing. So it's certainly going to be something being brought up after the race about what's happened there. But let's see then. At least it's a long race, longer than usual, to make up for whatever those issues were, as they immediately are going to enter the Nordschleife section of this Nurburgring combined circuit. There's a moving!
No!
Tried by the Lambo, the 2 Lambos coming together, and was that the green Lambo again? Was that the same car that was involved on the formation lap issue potentially? Dalkin going for a very opportunistic dive bomb, and hasn't worked out because the green Lamborghini of let's see who he was. He was Tapek, I believe.
Yes, it was.
Well, just didn't leave him any room on the apex. So, yeah, certainly some early issues for some drivers in this race.
Yep, and obviously you can see here that the front rows are they're already up at Flugplatz, so the guys are actually kind of running away with a very early lead at the moment. There's a total field spread of about 16 odd seconds. You can see more of the guys actually coming through now, you can see. But I was expecting a bit more patience from some of the drivers. Actually, we got a couple of guys up ahead of us going side by side as we jump on board with Shooter to watch this little battle. It's not really too wide going through that. No, Shooter's gone deep and gone and actually hit the wall. This is going to be very, very dangerous coming into this corner. Hopefully you can get it slowed down on the grass.
There's another car as well. I see he managed to avoid people. I think he just about has it. There's a BMW in the back flying off through the wall. There's a car stuck on the apex. Kicking off.
There it is. It's Rodders. It was Rodders who had the spin.
Making mistakes there in the early part.
Yep, he's managed to find a space to actually get back on track though and get back underway. So doesn't look like it's too much damage for him. Hopefully he managed to avoid making contact with anyone. But you can see a 2 Desert Pack currently in 3rd place. It's about 5.5 seconds off the current leader at the moment. As it's Zal who's chasing him down, chasing JK down in the Bentley, and he's still within that 1 second at the moment.
Well, this is one of the tracks. I mean, certainly out of every track that I've driven in my in my league racing career, it's by far the easiest one to make mistakes on, because of the track being so long that you have to stay 100% concentrated at into every single corner, not only to take the corner right, but just to remember which corner you're at. Already in the early part of the race, it seems like several drivers have made mistakes. As Mercedes slightly on the grass there, but I think he's managed to get away with that one. There's a huge train forming here from, what is that, from to Desert Pack in 3rd, down to 10th position?
It's Lusty who's the one who's leading it at the moment. There's Dakuzo's the one in 2nd, but we were just following Speed Demon.
Yeah, and of course the cold tires, as mentioned in the chat there as well, the cold tires at the start of the race wouldn't have helped going into those first few corners either, in terms of the drivers, the ease of making those mistakes. But this is one thing I like about the Nordschleife, when actually the drivers know what they're doing and they are driving so close to each other. As this narrow and super bumpy and challenging track, it looks so cool with all these GT3 cars flying through the forest.
Yeah, and this is actually going to be quite interesting to see the speed difference between various of the cars. Yeah, the two BMWs having a little bit of a look, trying to go side by side. They're actually going to cost them momentum here. The Acura is going to have a little bit of a look as well. They're just going to back this train up a little bit as they're coming up into this very fast, long left-hander, 5th gear. Oh, one of the BMWs has gone and run wide. That's going to be very costly. I imagine quite a few drivers have been picking up various little bits of damage throughout this lap so far, as we've got T-Mac actually in the Lamborghini trying to come up behind as well. As Scott is going down the inside of the AMG of Bell in front of him. He's going to be on the outside coming up towards the carousel. He's managed to get the position done though. That was quite nicely done there. Had to get his arms and elbows out a little bit, but very nice move. Pretty clean, getting that up into 8th place.
Yeah. Of course, even though the Nordschleife is not notorious for overtaking, it's more notorious for the drivers just trying to stay on the circuit. Of course, with the reverse grid, that means you're going to have slower drivers at the front, faster drivers at the back, technically. And that means we are going to be seeing overtaking! Scott is trying to make a move on the Acura ahead of him, of Speed Demon, but that door was shut firmly in his face. You can see how much faster Scott is at the moment, running in 8th place. Had a decent start to this race, and it's very much putting pressure on him. Wants to get out of this train as quickly as possible, and he wants to get out of the train by rather passing the cars in front of him, rather than crashing and falling back.
Yep, it's pretty good stuff so far. It's actually been a very intense first lap. We haven't actually finished it yet. We've still got quite a long way of the section of the track to actually go. The track length is 25.37 kilometers long and 87 turns in total. Is the number of corners around this circuit. There's a number of the guys getting what looks to be very, very sideways going through that, but it just seems that's probably just the replay and a slight little bit of lag, not quite showing the true angle of attack. But this train is actually extended a little bit further, as I believe it is it's not Dakuzo, as Lusty. It's closed up onto the back of 2 Desert Pack and also Gamersuk in front of him. So this train has actually become rather very long as we're coming on to the longest straight on the circuit. And not there! Not there! That was Bo. No, that wasn't Bo. Sorry, it was Dakuzo. There was someone else who's spun in the background as well. I think there was a pickup of smoke.
I'm amazed that I didn't see anyone collect him there.
That was, pretty good. We've got a couple of cars up here. We've got 3 wide, potentially coming to 4 wide as we come down this Dottinger Ho. We're coming up to the Bilstein Bridge, and the guys are going to have to sort themselves out fairly soon and kind of tuck into at least 2 wide. You can't go 3 wide through here, surely. Oh, it's so very close. One of the levels. Yep, on the grass. Now you guys are... No, that's 2 cars heavily into the wall. Massive contact. The BMW's being collected as well. This is absolutely devastating, and a whole bunch of drivers having to take to the grass for avoiding action as 2 of the cars are parked there. That'll be Lusty and I'm not entirely sure who that was. Yeah, we didn't quite catch the name before they
retired back to the pits. I think Zal is back in the pits. He was running in 2nd place. He ended up in that 3 wide situation, and he's gone into the pits now. I think it was Zal who came together at the front of that 3 wide. Of course, you saw the car that got onto the grass backing out of it completely, with the 2 remaining cars that went side by side into the narrow path, they didn't come out too well.
No, and we've actually got Dalking who's actually making moves. He's gained quite a few positions. He can't remember the exact position that he actually started in. Give me a second, 22nd or 21st, because we did have one guy drop out at the start of the race. So he's managed to get himself up 10 positions so far in the first lap. So pretty good, successful lap for him. Obviously, he had that slight incident earlier on at the Nurburgring turn 13, they call it. But other than that, he's done okay, and he seemed to keep himself mostly out of trouble and pick up a whole bunch of positions.
Yep. And I mean, certainly there are different attitudes to a race like this. Can go all out and try to gain as many positions as quickly as possible at the risk of getting into an incident, like we've seen seemingly some drivers try so far in the race, and for some it hasn't worked out too well. Then of course, what I would say it would be the most sensible tactic in a race at the track as difficult as this one, and even especially when the race is 30 minutes longer than usual, just take your time. Just stay out of incidents, because most drivers, if not all, are going to make some mistakes at some point in this race. And while it might be frustrating to be stuck behind someone who you think you're faster than for an extended period of time, it is clearly better than getting into an incident. So, yeah.
There was like someone there as well.
I'll take it a bit more easy, personally.
Yeah, someone's had a spin somewhere along the line, just
oh, there he is.
him knocked out. Yeah, it was Speed Demon. I think he's just waiting for a gap to try and turn the car around. That's pretty well done. Just there, he just managed to squeeze into a position, but yeah, had a slight spin coming out of that corner. And he's got quite a bit of damage to the front of his car as well.
Yeah, he did clunk the wall slightly while he was spinning around as well, of course. Easy to do when the track is so narrow. It was a good attempt, I have to say, but it's down in 18th position. Jardier we saw come through as he was having his spinneroo, and he's up to 13th place from the back of the field, the championship leader. He's got a lot of work left to do in the race though, which is always fun to see. He's got two cars very close ahead of him. That would be Rudders in the Mercedes MG, and Lusty and the BMW M6. Lusty, of course, who was further up. Oh, and Jardier getting very loose, but I think that looked more dramatic than he probably would have felt for Jardier. I'm sure he had every bit of control in that Lamborghini. But he's visibly closing on the two cars ahead.
Yep, actually coming on the run down into the F.O.O.L, quite a tricky section in real life, such as the elevation change, but here in these GT3 cars, it's pretty nice, easy and clean. There's no real passing opportunity through here. It's more kind of on the exit of this corner and potentially into the next heavy braking zone. There's a very short, sharp braking zone in the this left-hander that are coming into now, but the next one could potentially, if you've got the run, send the move up the inside, but no moves made this time round before they drop down the hill into this pretty tight right-handed hairpin.
Indeed, yeah. I think Jardier is playing this quite sensibly at the moment. Not throwing any silly moves while the Mercedes is getting so close to the M6, and this is not really a part of the track where you can throw any silly moves without certain death. And you can see the Mercedes is eager to get through on Lusty. Rudders putting all sorts of pressure, and Jardier has to be alert, because if they have a tiny bit of contact like that, he needs to be alert to back off, and I think he just about managed to do it there without any issue. But of course, Jardier will be losing time while being stuck behind these guys. So compared to, for example, other fast guys are further up. Dalking up in 8th place, Scott in 3rd. He would be a potential favorite for the race win. And Dalking is actually behind a 2-wide situation at, well, most part of this Nordschleife section is very narrow, but this is certainly one of them. And the Mercedes get through around the outside. A good move there. Dalking is rapidly closing in the slipstream. Is he going to go for it? Ooh, he showed his aggression at the start of the race. He's showing a bit more restraint on this occasion, which is probably a smart move. As there is a spinner ahead. Huge incident! The car flying in the air, and Dalking's avoided. I think the car that was ahead of Dalking did not manage it, and it's Scott who was running in 3rd position. He has flipped everywhere, and has well, Lusty now has got a damaged windscreen and a car backwards. There are mistakes happening, and unsurprisingly, and T-Mac is back in the pits as well. This is what a Nordschleife does. Unfortunately, it's so easy to make mistakes, and if you make mistakes at the wrong place when you got cars right behind you, it could be a huge, almost unavoidable incident.
Yeah, there's pretty much no margin for error, so if you do make contact with another car, you are going off, basically. And as we've seen, that's quite terribly ended quite a few people's races in pretty dramatic fashion. We do have a few people who are kind of still struggling along. So we've got John Beauregard here at the back in his AMG. Zhao has managed to get out of the pits and he's now coming and dropping into the carousel. Got Shooter as the next guy up ahead, and then Speed Demon is 16th place. He's managed to catch up to the back of Adalexis. Actually, no, they swapped positions. Speed Demon was in front of Adalexis earlier on, but I imagine Speed Demon's damage that he picked up very early in the lap is probably costing him quite heavily. So I'm just going to try and pick out some interesting, decent battles going on at the moment. The guys are starting to spread out a little bit more. This barrel goes slightly wide there as they drop down this quite big dip over the blind crest. But there's a few front runners still kind of relatively close to. Desert Pack is leading what is soon to become a 4-car train as Barrel seems to be closing up onto the back of Leon, the 6th one, and then Suomi in front of him.
Yeah, you got Suomi and Leon, who usually, you know, they have shown in the past that they can be front runners in normal races, and they're up in 3rd and 4th at the moment. Leon certainly putting pressure on Suomi, who again is putting pressure on Desert Pack as we are coming on to this super long straight. This is where we saw a 3 wide that didn't end too well on the first lap of the race. We are now on lap 2 out of 11. And it could well be a 3 wide again. The pink Lamborghini has dropped back, but Leon has got through on Suomi. And the run and the momentum he got from that massive slipstream might get him up to 2nd as well. To Desert Pack hanging in there though in that other Lamborghini. It's 3 Lamborghinis fighting it out for 2nd place. Oh, and Suomi had to back out of that one. This is where the incident happened on the previous lap, of course. And this time, the 3 wide has sorted itself out into a nice little line as we enter the corners. And that means everyone lives to fight another day.
Yep, 2 Desert Pack is a little bit deep there coming into the chicane. That's going to give Leon, the 6th one, the run coming down the start-finish straight, as we see here. This could be 2nd position for Leon coming into this corner, depending on how well 2 Desert Pack manages to defend coming into the braking zone. Suomi's there looking as well, see if he can try and gain the place. Leon, the 6th one, getting on the brakes quite nice and early. All the guys pretty much nailing the apex, except for Bao in the AMG, who was a car width shy. But pretty good smart driving by these 4-5 drivers that we're seeing here at the moment, as Dowking's actually joined the back. He's now up into 6th position. As Dakuza is in the pits, and so is Lusty. That's probably after their collision that we saw on the previous lap, and possibly some more taps throughout this lap. That's just kind of put them in a position where they've had to go take to the pits to repair that damage.
Yeah, that could be unfortunate for them, to be honest, to have their incidents and necessary pits of this early in the race. I did hear from some drivers that you kind of have to get to lap 3 to be sure to make it to the end in terms of the fuel load that you can add to the car. If you pit at the end of lap 2, you might have to do some fuel saving in order to make it to the end from there. So we'll have to see how that pans out for them.
Interesting. Have you heard anything about the tyres at all in terms of the situation with them?
Shouldn't be a problem, is what I heard, really. Didn't get too much information, but I think everyone... Those who said anything anyway said the tyres should be fine to last to the end, whichever company you choose.
Okay, so it's pretty much just a case of splashing and dashing, and I imagine they're all probably running the hard tyre anyway in these kind of conditions and temperatures. I imagine it's quite decent track temperature out there, just facilitating the hard tyre to be used, and obviously that can go to full fuel tank lengths, so it should be pretty good as Leon the second one is getting pretty close to 2 Desert Pack here as they come through this first part of the Norderslide section. 2
look
Desert
at
Pack
that move!
Wow, that was a fantastic move by Leon the second one. I think it kind of may have been 2 Desert Packs slightly backing out there, but even still, very good judgment to place your car alongside and then actually slip through on the corner.
I think 2 Desert Pack wasn't necessarily backing out intentionally. I think it just was a little bit slow through the corner or into the corner, and Leon was just super optimistic to slot his car into the gap. It's made it work, and now Suomi is gonna potentially take 2 Desert Pack as well. Not the super safe part of the track. Some blind crests going up through this particular part, and then there's a fast left-hander which 2 Desert Pack is on the grass. Oh, can he slow it down? Oh, he's actually managed to get back to the track before the corner. That's impressive stuff from 2 Desert Pack, but he's lost some positions as a result. Yeah, Dalking's managed to get around the outside of him, but that could have ended a lot worse for 2 Desert Pack there. Very good driving, managing to recover that slide and get it back on the black stuff. Now he's probably hoping to actually stick with these guys. He was running well in second. It looks like he's fighting the rear end, and his tyres are really struggling, potentially overheating here, especially after a slide. Yeah, especially after the slide that he had. Leon the sick one is kind of checked out a little bit from this group. They're still relatively close, but not too far. But JK up in front has got about a 6.5 second lead at the moment. He's been sitting pretty happy out there, as you can see, just running his race, keeping it patient, keeping it between the white lines, and keeping himself out of trouble. Yeah, and we don't really know too much about what JK can do. He's had a 21st place and a DNF so far this season. I think in the first 2 rounds he's not exactly shown his potential, and certainly so far in the 2 and a bit laps of the Nordschleife he has shown that he's no slouch. You know, he might have started from pole, but he's managed to stay there with good pace as Bo has had an issue. Oh, and he's dropping into a side-by-side situation with another Mercedes. Got him back behind. That's Jardier coming through, actually, up to 8th position now. He's gotten through at least some of the... Is that the same car he was behind before, Jardier? No, he was in the mixed group of cars in the train for 2nd, 3rd place. And then, Dalking went past him. I don't know if there was contact, but it is pretty... In that section where Bao did lose... we picked up Bao and he was recovering from an incident. It's pretty easy to lose the car there under braking and accidentally stick it in the wall. Certainly. At least Bao still running with a little bit of scrapes to his car as Rodgers. Yeah, this is the battle that Jardier was still behind before. Rodgers challenging. No, actually, Rodgers is challenging a different car now. He's challenging the Ace for a 6th position in the Lamborghini. And it could be a side-by-side. Rodgers wants to get past. Oh, can he stay on the outside without going off the track? And he's done it. Oh, I thought Eddie Ace was going to slide into him as he tapped the inside curb a little bit. But Rodgers with a great move to take 6th place. And now it's Jardier's turn to put pressure on the former Xbox One champion. Yep. Jardier running slightly wide there onto the grass, going through that very fast right-hander. You can do it flat out, but it's so awkward. You have to get the line bang on right in order to do it, so you usually have to breathe on the throttle a little bit, give it a slight lift to help get through. The Ace has actually got him dropped out of the carousel though. Oh, who was that? Oh, who was that? No, that's not Dalking. Please say that's not Dalking. No. It's Suomi. It's Suomi indeed, and he was running really well. He's not so much anymore, as that is a clunk with the wall. Yep, spin coming out the other side of the carousel there. It sounded like he stalled his car, and then he's managed to get it obviously fired back up again and get running. But yeah, you won't be too happy with himself there, especially with that tap on the rear of the car with the wall as well when trying to recover. Yeah, that's the thing with this track. You know, you could be running a really good race, but then one tiny blip of concentration could be absolutely fatal. And this is the track that requires more concentration than pretty much every other racetrack in the world. So we're now on board with Zenvo. Watching him a bit for the first time in the race, of course. He started second from last, being 2nd place in the championship going into this round. Got 2 5th places so far, and is running solidly, gaining places silently in this race so far, up into 9th. And now the Ace, of course, having dropped a few positions. again has to defend from another Mercedes.
Yeah, he obviously we saw him run a little bit wide going through the carousel. That allowed Jardier through, but I think also Bao actually managed to capitalise on that as well. So ADS has lost 2 positions within a short space of time. Obviously Zenvo starting just ahead of Jardier on the grid. Hasn't quite made the same progress that Jardier has, but at least he's still keeping touch with him. He's only there a couple of seconds up the actual road, and Zenval, providing that he gets a decent run coming through this long right-hander here, he should have the slipstream, and he should have the position coming down the Dottinger Ho, which we are just coming onto now, this long back straight.
Well, 3rd time onto this long back straight, and again we're going to be seeing some side-by-side action. Only 2 wide this time, slightly disappointing. We used to 3 wides here. But Zenvo is getting a great run in that Mercedes AMG, going past the Lamborghini, unless the Lamborghini's got some great top speed to bounce back with. He's going to start back into the slipstream to try and get some speed back, and of course this straight is long enough for you to really have time to do that. It's not necessarily a good thing to be behind at the start of the straight. It doesn't mean you're going to be ahead at the end of it, but it looks pretty good for the Mercedes, remaining side by side. Though ADS is not giving up and he's on the curb a little bit. However, they survived this one. Mercedes touching the grass slightly, but ADS actually hangs on from Zenvo, who still will have a run though, side by side, going on to the main straight as well. There's 3 cars going into the pit lane from the top 7, which means these guys are going to at least temporarily gain some places. Is Zenvo going to be able to brake later on the outside? Yes, he is. Braking down into the racing line, and ADS having to relieve the position in the end.
Yep, he managed to make the apex as well. Very, very fantastic. Very, very good driving by those 2 guys there, managing to go side by side through that final section and avoid making contact. They came very, very close at one point. But yeah, a whole bunch of guys are in the pits. Leon, the sick one, is the first. Bao is also in there, Jardier, and also Suomi. Suomi we saw have that contact, or the spin with earlier on, and then also the contact with the wall, so he's probably repairing some damage there. Jardier seems to have gotten running. He's going to be rejoining the track back in 11th position.
Yeah, and I'm not surprised to see several cars choosing the pit at the end of lap 3, considering that is apparently the earliest safe lap to pit on in terms of making it to the end of the race on a full fuel tank from that point. And of course, a lot of those guys were in pretty close battles, and around the Nordschleife, you don't really want to be in close battles. It's more than enough to think about just trying to stay on the circuit. So to also have to try to battle with other cars around you, that just makes it even harder. So those guys maybe pitting to get a bit of clean air and make life slightly easier for themselves.
Yep, just doing a quick penalty check here. So Zenvel's got a 1 second penalty, and Zhao's got a 10-second penalty. That could possibly be for speeding in the pit lane. Zhao did make a pit stop earlier on in the race, I seem to recall. But one thing to note is Dowking's now actually got himself into free air. All his previous laps that he's been running so far, he was stuck behind someone or a train of cars. Now he's got free clear air to try and chase JK up in front of him. So far JK's been pretty uncontested throughout this race, so it's going to be interesting to see who has the pace over the other driver for first position in this race.
Definitely. JK's been running solidly laps up there in the lead of the race. 8 minute 19.7 last time around. Unusually long lap time, I have to say. But it was only 3/10 quicker than Dalking, but of course, as you said, Dalking has been having cars ahead of him, so he could well have more pace in hand, as he's already actually closed about a second on JK's lead on this lap so far. So it couldn't be too long. It might not be too long until we have a battle for the lead of the race.
No, just going to have a quick look through the rest of the field as well to see where the battles are. This is probably going to be the most interesting battle that we have at the moment. It's between Zenvo, ADS and Benizili, currently battling for 5th position in this little train as they come through the foxhole and into this slow section here. You can see the AMG or Zenvo. He's got a 1 second penalty as well to bear in mind. Hopefully he'll be able to clear himself 1 second of a car in front. He's still got quite a way in this race to actually do so. But this seems to be like the closest, except for maybe Rodders and 2 Desert Pack. Yeah, the closest battle on track that we have at the moment.
Certainly. And yeah, man, Rodders seems to have been right at the back of another car for the whole race so far. I have to say, Rodders really impressing me so far in this race. He's only 16th in the championship. He had a 10th place in round 1. He's got an 18th place from round 2. But now he's up in 4th place and really seeming to be on the attack in this race so far. Right at the back of the Desert Pack. And let's see where he will make the move this time. He, of course, made a really impressive move on the previous lap on ADAs.
That was F.O.O.L.
Was it?
Yes, it was F.O.O.L who made the impressive move. They both got exactly the same livery, I believe. Let's just double check. So there's Rodders, and there is F.O.O.L. So they got the same livery design, just different colours. So obviously Rodders with the fluorescent highlighter yellow, and then F.O.O.L is with the white highlights and design to the black.
But I'm pretty sure both of them made an impressive move on the previous lap on ADAs. So I don't think I remember wrong. I think you just remember the difference situation.
Okay,
both
yes.
of which were awesome moves.
Yeah, I think you could be right there. But yeah, Rodders has had a pretty good race so far. I really seem to yeah, he gets pretty close there to the back. Oh, no! You don't want that. I was going to say, I think Rodders did have 1 or 2 brushes with walls or people earlier on in the race, if I seem to recall. And then, yeah, he goes and makes that little bit of contact with the wall there as well.
Man, we need to stop saying that people are doing well, because then they're going to make a mistake. It happened with Scott earlier in the race, of course, when I said he was a favourite for the win, potentially from 3rd place, and then he flew up into the air and had a massive crash. And Rodders, slightly less massive, crashed, a little brush with the wall. That's given him, you'd think, a bit of aero damage on the right side of the car. At least he carries on.
Yep. Ooh, Jardier, you're pretty close to the back of this M6. There's not going to be a position or possible chance to overtake there coming through that left-hander. There's still the remnants of the Scott crash earlier on. There's a couple of wheels on either side of the circuit. Jardier getting very, very close to what looks to be a pretty squirrely M6 under braking. They're all now on the run up to a carousel. Jardier's got Beau behind them, but of course both Jardier and also Beau have pitted. I believe the Kuza's pitted as well, maybe?
Yeah, I
at some
so,
point?
but he pitted on lap 2, I think. So,
yeah.
Potential second stop if he can't make his fuel tank last.
Yep. Oh, Jardier getting very, very close there to the gravel on the outside. That could have quite easily sucked him in and off the track. Fortunately, he managed to hold on to that one and pull himself back onto the circuit and keep himself out of the walls. This is what we're talking about, where there's no margin for error. As you can see, like literally there's about a car width of grass on either side of the circuit, and then you're in the Armco barrier. That's, yeah, it's very, very, very difficult to avoid if you have a slight lapse of judgment.
Yeah, absolutely. Or just lapse of concentration. And Jadier's taking his time with the Kuza. With all respect to the Kuza, he's probably driving that Jadier normally would expect to be ahead of. But the Kuza is just driving his line. He's doing a good job, just not letting the pressure of Jadier get to him. And Jadier is forced to be patient and wait for the straight, which is coming up relatively soon. Towards the end of lap 4 in this race. Jadier pushing the limits a little bit. I think he's got it relatively under control, but I do see him put a couple of wheels on the grass now and then.
Yep, still looking pretty smooth though, running through the corners. But we shouldn't talk too much about how good his driving is, because commentators' curse is going to put him in the wall at some point, as we have seen plenty of time.
The championship interest.
Yes, that's very, very true. But yeah, here we go. We're coming through the long right-hander now that will lead on to the Dottinger Ho. So we need a decent run over the M6 coming out of here. Obviously, he's going to have the slipstream, but I think the M6 may also have a slight turbo advantage here. The track is relatively high up, and obviously the elevation changes up and down We're kind of nearing one of the higher parts of the track as well, so there's that to keep in mind. And as you can see, Jody isn't really closing all that much in the slipstream. He's starting to now, but not a huge amount, as much as we're expecting. We'll see if... I doubt he's going to be close enough to make a move coming into this chicane
just
here.
too far back. He got right up underneath him at the end of the straight, but then it was too late. By the way, Back is in the pits, but even more importantly, Stadio is nearly hitting the back. Here we go, he's going to get that move done now.
Drag race.
So we'll stay on this for a little bit longer. Drag race down the main straight. We're both going to pass Back, who is in the pit lane. I believe anyway, he might be coming out soon. Stadio on the outside. That BMW M6 has got some straight line speed, I have to say. Akusa
that's a little bit
wiggly under the braking. Jadder having to leave a little bit of room. Some slight bodywork banging going on there, but Jadder in at the end gets a move down. We need to skip to the lead of the race. Dalking is challenging. JK has caught him by like 6 seconds on that previous lap, and now they're going side by side, and Dalking is through for the lead of the race on what on the GP circuit would be referred to as the back straight, but of course here there are quite a few back straights when you're running a track this long. JK trying to hang on the outside, but well, nothing he can really do to hold Dalking back there. And Dalking is now the leader of the race with 4 laps gone. Still 7 laps to go.
Yep, fortunately he's still got quite a bit of a gap to Zenvo behind him, 13.5 seconds. Although he has now lost the lead, the race still isn't over for him. He's put in a solid performance so far. All he needs to do is just keep a level head and just kind of just try and stick with Dalking a little bit, but just not really hustle and challenge him too much. And he could be on with a potential podium here. Obviously, it all depends how the pit stops actually work out, as neither of these two drivers at the moment have actually made their pit stop. So things could close up for the top 3 positions later on in the race once these guys have made their stop.
Definitely. Leon the sick one in 7th place is the lead driver at the moment out of those that have pitted. He's 37 seconds off the lead. It's quite hard to say exactly how long the pit stop time is there, but 37 out there. I think Leon wouldn't be too far off Dalking. Of course, they were very close to each other on track, and I think Leon even was ahead of Dalking when he went into the pit lane. So Leon wouldn't count him out of this race yet either. As Zenvo Rodders have a 1 second penalty at the moment, so the only 2 in addition to Zal's. 10 seconds for what we think might be speeding the pits. So the drivers at least doing a pretty good job of avoiding the penalties in this race so far.
Yeah, we're going to jump up to Benazili, who's chasing down AD Ace at the moment. In front of AD Ace is Zenval, currently in 3rd position. So this is a battle for 4th at the moment. Just having a look at the timings, it seems like that this is probably the closest battle. But these two drivers seem to be pretty evenly matched on pace at the moment. They seem to not really made any kind of ground on either driver. Just as I say that, Benazili closes up in the braking zone on AD Ace there on that previous corner, but that could just be a little bit of a Constantina effect of the cars slowing down. But it actually looks like he has gained a car length or 2 on the AD Ace, so trying to chase down for that 4th position.
Yeah, it's some of the tricky part of the circuit at the moment. Downhill braking while turning into this particular corner. Let's try and... I've got a track map here. Let's try and figure out where on earth we are. I think... No, it's not there. No, it's not there. No, it's impossible.
I know where we are. Just trying to figure out the name on the track map that you've given me.
We got the track map. Looks like we got some yellow flags according to the track map at the moment out there.
Oh, do we? Well, we're coming up to Bergwerk is the name of the corner that we're coming up to now, I believe it is called. I probably absolutely butchered that pronunciation. But that is the section that we're on. We're just going past the red arrow on the Nordschleife section.
Oh, yes. Great. That means we're soon going to be coming up to Kesselchen. So, let's see. This is a fast part of the circuit, and Benizili is choosing better off going for forcing a side-by-side situation. So that's probably the angst curve, which my German is decent enough to know that I think that translates to fair curve. And it does look quite daunting when you're going through that narrow part at nearly full speed.
Yeah, it's quite tricky and quite easy to misjudge. As there's a lot of corners on the Nordschleife, unless you know that all the guys getting very, very close to popping out the top of the carousel. They both managed to keep it. No! 88 has had a slight bit of traction loss coming out the exit of the carousel. That's actually gone and gifted the position to Benizili. So 88 has now dropped down into 5th position. I'm not entirely sure if he did make contact with the wall. He certainly came very, very close, but if he did make contact, it would have been a very, very light brush. It would seem there's no visible damage that I can see, or I believe that we can see on the car.
Yeah, indeed. So fingers crossed for 88. Seems to be reasonably back up to speed after that little niggle. As we're now watching a different battle. Dakusa has been having his little issues earlier in the race. Seems to have calmed down a little bit for him now on lap 5. He's running just behind the Bow. Two drivers have both been through the pit lane, of course. Racing for 9th position as it stands. Just following each other. As Dakusa is so nearly making a mistake there, just touching the grass a little bit. And nearly getting out of shape, but managing to save it. Good car control from the BMW driver.
Yeah, that curb on the outside there is it's a pretty dangerous one. It's one that you can run, but it's one that I wouldn't advise running. It's very, very easy to get it caught slightly wrong and bounce the car and kind of suck you into the wall. So it's a pretty dangerous curb, and generally one that you don't want to be touching. Fortunately for Dakusa, he managed to keep hold of the car, managed to keep it on the track. Some very, very good driving, and that's obviously proving his worth of Tier 1.
Yeah. 17th in the championship. Finished 14th actually in both of the first 2 races. Did the Finn. But he's on for a top 10 as it stands. If we can make this strategy last to the end of the race, of course, from lap 2. We were told that was going to be a potential fuel struggle. But we'll see how it works out for Dakusa, who is dropping a little bit away from Bo in this section of the track. So now watching Zal in the Bentley. I believe Scott's teammate. They're at least both running the Bentley. Let's do a quick check on that one. No, they are not in the same team. I do apologize. They're both running a very similar Bentley.
Hello. I was going to say that Zal was well, Zal and who was he chasing down? Shooter. They're basically the 2 closest cars on the track at the moment, but Dowking has actually popped into the pits from the lead. It's gone and given it back to JK as he continues on. F.O.O.L continues on his way as well. So does Benizili. 88 is diving into the pits. And
question
so
is, where
is
is
Rodders. That is a very good question. Leon's just coming onto the pit straight now. So this could be very close.
This could indeed be very close. Dalking is still in the pit lane, is on his way out. Is Leon going to inherit the lead, I think? Yep. He is! The net lead of the race goes to Leon, the sick one, as he dives down into the first corner ahead of Dalking, who is still on his way out of the pit lane. There he goes on the pit exit and into turn 1. There's about 5 or so seconds between those 2. So Leon has actually put in some really good pace after he made his pit stop a couple of laps ago. And that has put him up into the net lead of the race, with of course the top 3 now still needing to go through the pit lane.
Yep, Leon as well was ahead of Dowking, roughly about the same sort of distance, I think. Actually, no, Leon has extended the gap because Dowking was at the back of that train that we saw earlier on, and when Leon at the sick one had managed to slip himself through ahead of it and then started to pull out a second and a half or so before 2 or 3 cars made their pit stop. So yeah, Leon the sick one has put in a couple of decent laps, obviously with the fresher tyres, and gotten himself that basically a 5-second lead now. Well, net lead. Obviously there's still 3 guys up ahead of him, but they are yet to make their pit stop.
Indeed. So Leon then, the new Do I dare to call him a favorite for the win? We know what happened last time I called someone that. But here we go. Then Jardier, of course, we can't forget him either in all of this. He's in a net 3rd position, but he's got a 7-second gap, nearly 8-second gap up to Dalking. And add to that the 5 seconds between Leon and Dalking. That means Jardier has got some work to do if he wants a 3rd consecutive win for Season 11. But if anyone can do it, it is, of course, the reigning double champion. So I have to say, Jardier's kind of just ran a relatively silent race so far. He stayed out of trouble. He's had, of course, his battles in the early part of the race when everyone was was forced to be in battles pretty much. But starting from the back of the field, he stayed out of trouble and now in a net 3rd place. We think, anyway, JK, of course, he's probably still ahead of him if he was to pit now, because he was in 2nd behind Dalking, only by a few seconds. But it might be close between those guys by the time JK comes in.
Yeah, entirely depends on the actual pace of Jardier. You probably imagine that Jardier would have the pace over JK.
Yeah, I mean, looking at lap times, you can just see there actually JK with an 8:21 last time. I'd compare that to Senvo in 2nd place, 8:15, Penicilli in 3rd, 8:18, and Leon, the man on the move right now, 8:12.1, which is only half a second faster than Jardier. And of course, we can't really see Dalking's previous lap time because he was through the pit lane.
Yep. So just basically waiting for Dalking to... He's not going to do it on his out lap because obviously going through the pits, but the next lap, so lap 7, will be the telling lap as to what kind of pace Dalking actually has. JK, if you're listening, mate, you need to pick up your pace a little bit if you want to hold on to this 3rd position. You're doing well so far. Just when I said to take it easy, don't quite take it 8:21 easy.
Yeah. Well, still an impressive drive from him. You have to remember, JK, the reigning champion of PC Tier 4. A man who took a huge step straight up to Tier 1. And, I mean, he's been leading the race for most of this, even if it's no longer the net lead. And you have to say, even though he's a champion, with that huge step through the tiers, it's very impressive what he's shown so far.
Yep, just reading the comments, Stevie saying that what we've just said is all a lie, which kind of technically it is. He's kind of right. Like, one mistake by any of these drivers, their race hopes could shatter and crumble pretty quickly. But so far,
I mean, lap times are not as relevant as for normal tracks. I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, I'd agree. As well, unless you can keep it out of the walls. If you can keep it out of the walls completely and clean race, then yeah, lap times come into relevancy. But at the same time, better to be safe than to be sorry.
Yeah, and we have seen many instances of that, of course, already in the race. Drivers making self-inflicted errors and losing the race as a result of it, or suddenly losing a lot of positions. We are down now to 17 drivers surviving the green hell about halfway through this race, which means we have lost, of course we lost Miss Van Ommen as a disconnection before the race even had begun, but in the race itself we've lost then 6 drivers so far completely, and then we have added Alexis in 17th, who is 5 minutes it's interesting to say, it's 5 minutes 23 seconds off the lead, but he's still on the lead lap.
He is, everyone is.
Yeah,
as you're just saying. Just popping up to Speed Demon, I was going to say that this is probably the closest battle. AD Ace has now just popped within a second of Rodders, or around about 1 second to Rodders, so these are the 2 closest battles on track at the moment. Speed Demon obviously had that quite big shunt earlier on. It seems like he's managed to get the repair done on the front of his car and is now chasing the AMG of John in front of him. So I think we might stick with these guys just for a bit, see how this battle plays out.
Yeah, this seems to be the closest on-track battle at the moment. I think we were a bit spoiled for battles in those first 2-3 laps with the 3 wides and the super close trains. Of course, it was always going to break off a little bit when people started pitting and, of course, making mistakes, getting damage to the cars. These guys are running very close. That's so awkward. I mean, I've driven that carousel in open wheelers, and that's even more awkward, as you can maybe imagine. But yeah, even in these GT3 cars, it's so easy to just fall off that inside bit on the carousel and you feel stupid.
Yeah, you've really got to get the speed down and stay within a certain speed as well. Once you get up to about, I think it's above like 95 odd kilometers an hour. I think 55, 60 odd is probably your max in miles per hour. Once you kind of get above that, the laws of physics basically just say no and chuck you out the top.
Yeah. And yeah, you could get the floor of your car stuck on that gap between the inside, the banked part and the normal part. Oh, look at this! Speed Demon is getting very close. Is he going to make the move here? No, he's not. Backing out of that one. The Acura challenging the Mercedes for 13th position. John Beauregard, the man in the Mercedes ahead of him, is just trying to defend this position. I don't know if these guys have been through the pit lane, but I am guessing they probably have. Yeah.
I believe it was in the early laps as well, so they probably will need to make another pit stop as well later on in the race, unfortunately.
Indeed. Let's hope, for the sake of them having a fun battle, that maybe both of them will have to make another similar length pit stop. And what is this? That is ADA's just behind Rodders. Oh, Rodders dropped back! Oh no, he was in the pits, wasn't he?
Yes.
My bad. I think that's why I dropped back. He was in the pits, although I feel like he still dropped some time relative to where he should have been. I'm not sure on that though. Suomi as well, in 10th position. Wasn't he further up earlier in the race? So it could have been a mistake from him as well.
Potentially.
It's a lot of drivers, a lot of things to remember. Anyway, ADA's is putting the pressure on Rodders for 11th place, which is what we know, but it's not getting too much on the straight. Similar situation to Jari, really, just a little bit further back even. It's closing in just as the straight is starting to run out. Let's see if Speed Demon's Acura has got more top speed in it, but he as well is running out of straight now. It was the really final few corners of the lap. ADS has gained some time, it seems, through those wiggly corners and has got a good run on the main straight. This is back to normal racing territory for most of these drivers who will have surely driven the GP circuits way more than the Nordschleife itself. And here we go, ADA's into familiar braking zone, the first corner of the lap, and there we go, up to 11th position for him. Nice bit of late braking to make that move stick, as Rodders is trying to get back underneath him on the exit of the chicane. But a decent run as well, but I don't think it's going to be decent enough to get an immediate challenge back on ADA's.
Yeah, it looks like ADA's is the more comfortable of the two drivers in the race at the moment. I'm wondering if Rodders has taken some damage somewhere along the line. John is in the pits. I did see him go into the pit lane at the back of shot. The other battle that is relatively close is between Suomi and 2 Desert Pack, coming through the Schumacher S's.
Interesting, yeah. 2 Desert Pack, of course, was running very high up in the race in the early stages. Started towards the front, and it's steadily dropped back a little bit, but still ahead of Suomi, which is impressive in itself, considering Suomi is one of the super fast drivers, certainly based on previous experience with him. Desbach is hanging on to that 9th place as it stands.
Suomi did have that quite hefty impact with the wall earlier on, so I think that's compromised his race.
True, yeah.
A fair amount. And the spin as well.
Yeah, so I mean, one of many drivers have had his fair share of issues in the first half of the race. We're now entering lap 7 for these guys. 7 out of 11. That means we are getting very close now to what would have been a normal race distance of 1 hour. But of course, this special reverse grid race is an hour and a half. Which means Suomi, at least for him, he's got a bit more time to make this pass onto Desert Pack. Will he find a way through in the first part of the lap? This is more about just hitting your line, really. But now we're entering a pretty long flat-out section. Not really a safe spot for overtaking, I would say, but if you can get a good run, could make it work.
Looks pretty decent to me. He's going to pick up some slipstream here, but I think his best opportunity is just going to be to sit in the slipstream for now. Though he is going to look to go side by side. I was going to say sit in the slipstream and then try to make the move under braking coming here into this right-hander, but alas, he wasn't in the position to do so in the end due to his earlier backing out. Just taking a look at the leaderboard. Yeah, I think he was possibly trying to scare Two Desert Pack slightly into potentially making a move and presenting an opportunity. But
and in the end, I think he scared me more than he scared Two Desert Pack.
Yeah, quite possibly. Actually, looking at the leaderboard as well, we can see Zenval is making gains on JK in front of him. So Zenval really putting the pace in at the moment to close down on this lead. This could potentially form into a battle and see hopefully an overtake fairly soon.
Yeah, could well happen. He's the lap times on the previous laps, of course. We say lap times don't matter as much at I don't know stuff, but of course when there is a 7-second difference in lap times, you can kind of tell who is the faster driver at this moment in time, and Zenmo has been gradually closing in, like Dalking did earlier in the race on JK. You see, both estimate their pit stop, but it is currently the battle for the lead of the race. Zenmo, though, just catching him in a slightly awkward part of the track, where he has to then turn on his patience hat for a little bit until he gets on a more appropriate part of the track to make a move.
Yeah, he's popping out the top of the carousel slightly, but he does manage to get himself back down again. Holding on at the moment. Just trying to think of where his next best opportunity is going to be. It's probably the safe option.
This whole next section is not good at all.
No, it's very, very twisty and tight. Oh, he's getting very close though. He's trying to put his nose in various different places, trying to pry a gap open from JK, but JK being resilient and not letting that happen so far, keeping his Audi nice and wide, using the full width of the circuit, as you should be doing. Zenvo using a little bit more, as you probably shouldn't be at this track, but seems both drivers are keeping it legal so far, which is good. We like the nice, fair, legal racing. But,
indeed, we can just see how much faster Zenmo is out of the corners, but there's no way for him to go, especially when JK is sticking to the inside line as well, going into the corners. The corners that are already hard enough to overtake him, let alone when the driver had defensive position as well. I always found this part of the circuit to be by far the most challenging to drive, and I don't necessarily think it's because of the difficulty of the corners. I think it's just because of the fact that you drove this part so many fewer times than the rest of the track, because so many times you crash before you get there. Oh no! Speaking of crashing!
Oh dear,
and this Zenvo has just jumped down that. Isn't that a jump going down the hill there? Getting the car settled, and
who's that? Benazili.
Him going slow. Benazili getting caught out a little bit as well.
Yeah.
Zenmo going slow, and that is huge damage to Zenmo. You can just see it there. That was a huge crash with the barrier, and he just needs to nurse it back to the pits now. That is thrown away, a potential good result for him, sadly. Just as I was talking about crashing, I do apologise.
Commentator's curse is struck once again, but yeah, massive suspension damage.
Stop talking to him.
Yeah, I was going to say is basically his next best opportunity would have been coming onto this straight here. Hold it together, boy.
Indeed. And he needs, with a car that seemingly wants to turn right on its own, he needs to get down a long straight to get to the pit lane.
Yeah, and this is going to be absolutely painful for him, because if he gets too fast coming down this straight and he loses control of the car, that's going to be another smash, another big hit into the wall. So he just needs to be patient and just kind of nurse, as you say, nurse the car back home, keep the speed down relatively low, try and keep that steering wheel as straight as possible and get that damage repaired. So I think JK is going on for another lap, which is quite surprising. I was going to say I was expecting him to pit this lap, considering the way his car was moving around earlier on.
Yeah, speaking of pitting, that was Benizili coming in for second place. I was just going to say, I think JK is enjoying his time in the lead of this race, to be honest. He knows he won't last with people like Leon and Dalking back there, unless those guys make a mistake, of course, which could well happen around here. But yeah, JK clearly getting some laps led for his stats.
Yeah, Zenvo being relatively smart, but also slightly cheeky at the same time. He's being smart in that he's taking to the grass to get out of people's way. But also there was quite a bit of a big shortcut that he had just there going across that particular area of lovely greenery. But yeah, JK retaining that lead. Leon, the sick one, now up into second position, 13 seconds behind.
Yeah,
so
Leon is absolutely flying. Jardir actually, fastest lap of the race, I think, for Jardir last time at 8:11.2, which actually is second faster than Leon. As Leon's best lap is 11.7. He did 12.3 last time out. So very close, I think. Leon, Dalking, and Jardir running very close pace. All three very, very impressive pace as well. Zenvo is dropping down the field now, you can see on the overview, getting a lot of repairs done to his car. Might be in the pits for quite a while, to be honest.
Yeah, it's going to be very unfortunate for him. He's dropped back past behind his teammate of Rodders, who's still chasing down the ace there in front of him. So Rodders doing a little bit of grass cutting on the inside of the left-hander there. Trying to chase down that Lamborghini. He's not too far behind, as you can see, just over half a second, around the 6th, 7th, 10th mark at the moment. But just want to turn to the chat for a second and I'd like to ask, at this stage of the race, who do you reckon is going to be the top 3 drivers? You can get your votes in and then we can discuss. Well, actually, no, we won't discuss because commentator's curse has been rife.
Yeah, just keep in mind when you do your votes that whoever you mention is going to crash, because we're going to say that they're on close to win.
Yeah, she'll have to try and avoid talking to them. I'm just having a look at the actual times at the moment. I think JK is probably a net 4th, maybe a net 5th position at the moment. I think it's like a good 30-35 odd seconds in the pit lane, which will put him down just behind Bo in 5th place.
Indeed. And Bo has been running very well as well. 8:13.9 last time out. He's up in a net. Yeah, like you said, yeah. Could be close with JK. Potentially net 4th place, or at least 5th. And that is for a guy who is 15th in the championship. Yeah, the solid 8th place last time out, but this could be even stronger performance for Bo, sliding slightly into the right-hand turn there, but managing to control it nicely. Flies down through the kinks, flat out, down the hill.
Into the Fox
side of the track.
Yep, I remember the Bo had a scrape with the wall at some point as well, and the scrapes down the left-hand side of his car be the telltale signs that I'd be correct there. Just jumping up to Leon at the moment, who's putting in the lap times to close the gap down to JK, down to 10 seconds. So he's closing in on that. He's kept the gap to Dalking roughly round about the same, maybe slightly extended it by about a second or so.
Yeah, it's going a little bit back and forth, but on the last lap he was 6/10 faster, which is nothing considering the lap is over 8 minutes long, really. So yeah, it's been about 6 seconds, I think, for a while between Leon and Dalking, and then there's further 6 seconds between Dalking and Jardir. So with all of them just at the moment just running without making any mistakes, and also impressively around this track at super similar pace. Kind of looking for a mistake from either of them to make something happen.
Yep. Has the points changed at all? Is it still top? It'll be top 20 now, isn't it? I think. drivers get
still top
finishing
20
positions.
getting points, which means, of course, everyone who gets to the end of this race will get points. We're down to 15 drivers now. We lost a couple more. Zenvo is out. He's not been able to get his car repaired and back out onto the circuit, unfortunately. And I think, was it Adam Alexis I was running around 5 minutes down before he has also dropped from the session. It is always a race of attrition around the Nordschleife, proven again today. It's about staying alive. And those guys like Leon, like Talking, like Jadier, who can run at alien pace while staying alive as well. That is just something that we have to applaud.
Yep. Just seeing John's comment there in the chat, saying in the top three will probably involve a Lamborghini, which I think is a fair shout considering the majority of the grid is a Lamborghini in one livery or another. And for a moment I did think it was John Beauregard who's out on circuit, but fortunately it's not. It's a different John who's
John Beauregard. Well, if he was driving around the Nordschleife in 13th place while typing in the chat, I'd be mightily impressed.
Yep, unless he's got speech to text going or something like that.
Or forearms.
Yes, or forearms. Yeah, Benazili momentarily popped himself.
Momentarily pops himself in the wall, I tell you.
Yeah, I was going to say he momentarily popped himself within the second and a half of the Kuza in front of him, and then, yeah, we saw him have that little love tap with the ball there. Give it a little kiss, give it a little grind. But he's still going. He's not suffered too much damage, I hope, from that. So, who shall we watch at the moment whilst things are relatively quiet?
Well, still 1 second between ADS and Brothers. That would be the closest battle we have at the moment. So, let's see if Brothers can make any inroads. I mean, he was passed by ADS earlier on, wasn't he? So, and ADS has been slowly pulling away, so Rodgers needs to find something else to be able to get back at him. And of course, you can see a little bit down to the front of Rodgers' car as well, which, if anything, is making him slightly harder to see on the right side of the car.
Yeah, but just seeing in the chat that Zenvo's just popped up saying that he had probably the slightest brush with the back of JK. Is actually ADS has actually run wide up ahead, which is bringing Brothers right up onto the back. So we'll get back to Zenvo in just a moment. Actually, we will round off Zenvo because Brothers won't be able to pass anywhere along in this section, and so it'll be down the back straight.
Before he proves you wrong here.
Yeah, in before he proves you wrong. Very right there. But yeah, Zenvo, a lot of suspension damage, and then even more aero damage, and obviously retired from the retired from the race.
He's going to prove you wrong. He's going to prove you wrong.
Brothers side by side.
Side by side. Oh my goodness.
That's it. Smart thing. Tuck back in behind as ADS runs wide again. That's going to gift Brothers the position this time round, but actually ADS is going to be the one who's going to be having the slipstream coming down this straight. JK has gone into the pits. Almost said AK then. JK has gone into the pits to make his pit stop, so it'll be interesting to see where he is actually going to come out and rejoin the track. That is not a slow car up in front of us that I can see that I thought was a slow car momentarily. It seems to be 2 Desert Pack, but ADS doesn't really seem to have the legs to be closing up on Brothers coming down this straight at the moment. He could potentially close up in the braking zone, could potentially give him a opportunity to try and make a move down the pit straight and into turn 1.
Well, wouldn't think I have to say this, but recently it seems like drivers need that straight to be even longer. They're just closing up before it, but of course that is again another example is they're getting a good run onto the main straight as a result of which we already saw ADS pass Rodgers down into turn 1 with the inside line. Rodgers seems to be giving away the inside line once again, but how will he be on the brakes a little bit later again? And ADS goes through once more up into 10th position. That gave me some flashbacks. I feel like we saw that already.
Yeah, deja vu. That's happened before. You're very right there. JK has come out of the pits and he has come out in 5th position behind F.O.O.L as well. So, yeah, around 30 odd seconds was the length of the pit stop, I believe, as Leon has now taken the lead.
Yeah, I think JK's had a slightly slower pit stop, actually. He's 32 seconds off Leon at the moment, but Leon had a gap to him when JK went in. So, yeah, I think JK might have lost a little bit of time in the pits for whatever reason. Bo, 8 seconds ahead of him. And then, of course, up at the front, 10 seconds separating the top 3 in the race. Which, after over an hour of racing around the Nordschleife, is actually, even though they can't see each other on track, certainly not too often, maybe they can on the back straight. Yes, oh, there we go. Oh, Dalking has dropped back. He's closer to Jadir now. He's only a couple of seconds ahead of Jadir. And he's got a penalty, of course.
Has he? That could be why he has dropped back. Does he have any damage on his car?
Might have been off the track a little bit. Let's see. Can we bring up the penalty? That's only 1 second for Dalking. So
it could have lost the time trying to actually give up the penalty and then unsuccessfully being given the time back. Has therefore got the penalty anyway, so that probably could have cost him the time there with that. Possibly an off-track excursion somewhere.
Indeed. So, potential battle incoming then for 2nd position. I think, oh, that's an interesting line there from the Cura of Speed Demon.
Right in the curbs.
Even more than just a curbs, I would say. But he is closing up on Rodders as well. Which means he's going to be joining this little battle we just saw with ADAs up in front. Speed Demon running way faster than those 2 guys on the previous lap. Of course, we saw ADAs struggling a little bit in the latter part of lap 8 and now lap 9. But either way, Speed Demon closing in and wanting to get himself some battling around the Nordschleife by the end of this race.
Yep, and this is the onboard view of Speed Demon at the moment. So he's looking at the 2 cars in front of him, and 2 Desert Pack isn't actually too far up the road. Just very briefly caught a glimpse of him coming through the foxhole. A further 3-4 seconds up the road as the guys are looking a little bit squirrely sideways, so they're trying to slow the cars down into this rather tight, twisty section. But they're all managing to keep it on the track and managing to keep it going for the moment. Just taking a quick look at the leaderboard at the top, at the front end of the field, and it looks like Leon's lost a tiny little bit of time as well. Jardier's dropped underneath the 10-second mark, and Dalking is back into 7.5 second range. So Leon may have had a slight moment somewhere along the line that cost him half a second to a second or so.
Yeah, could be a bit. Oh God, look at that flame popping out of the exhaust of the Mercedes. Oh, and again, oh my goodness. And that is Speed Demon closing very much on the braking. But this is turning into, it's been a while since we had a train in the race, and that is good to see. There's another train coming back to Desert Pack. Could make it a 4-train car, that's not right. 4-car train. In a second, oh, the Mercedes getting sideways as well. Rodders is not feeling too comfortable out there, especially now with Speed Demon right on his tail, clinging on to 11th place. It's always a difficult question for Speed Demon as to where to attack.
He's probably going to try go for it here. They look like Rodders got the corner slightly messed up and kind of caught the curb a little bit awkwardly, and Speed Demon was trying to capitalise on that, but in doing so also caught the curb a little bit awkwardly and got himself pretty sideways and squirrely. But he is right here, very, very close to Rodders. The Acura does have a turbo, but Speed Demon backing out of that move, it seems, and tucking back in behind to go back into a single file formation, following through as Rodders doing a bit more grass cutting. The wheels are still there. Where are the marshals? Why have they not cleared that up? And yeah, it's going to very quickly become a 4-car train as the guys have closed up pretty quickly to the back of 2 Desert Pack there in that lead Lamborghini.
Oh yeah, this is what we like to see. 4-car train at the Nordschleife. Can Speedman? No, he's kind of halfway on the ramp there. Gets through the corner. Oh, wide on the exit as well, but it's all good. And there you can see the whole train. 4 different cars, I believe, in running line of stern. And it's a Lamborghini. No, that's 2 Lamborghinis actually. No, like me. 2 Lamborghinis. A Mercedes who is in the wall, and that is the other side of the Mercedes. Damaged 4 others, sadly. He already had a clunk on the right side, and that is the left side as well. Let's hope that the car is still able to drive straight. As Rudders carries on, but losing that position, of course, to Speedman, giving Speedman an easy way through, which I'm sure he will appreciate. And Rudders carries on in 12th place. The good news for Rudders is that the gap to John Beauregard in 13th is nearly a minute. So he's got that on his side in terms of staying in 12th place.
Yep, he's got that time in hand. There's a pretty unfortunate little error there by Rudders. It's obviously cost him the position as we've seen, and he's probably got some damage from that. So, just looking at this battle at the moment, Speed Demon trying to do a little bit of a recovery drive after his hefty shunt earlier on in the race and picking up quite significant damage. I'm thinking that he may still need to pit at some point, so he could be on lighter fuel than the guys ahead of him. 2 Desert Packs seeming like he's struggling a little bit and has been falling down through the field throughout this race, as he was up the sharp end earlier on in the opening laps. But yeah, a nice little 3-car train, and it's going to be interesting to see who's going to have the legs over who coming down the Dottinger Hoe round about now.
Let's see, it's been a while since we had 3 wide down the Dottinger Hoe. And lap 1 and 2, we saw it before. This could well turn into another situation. The Lamborghini is closing in onto Desert Pack. Speed Demon closing in on both of them. Is he going to stick his nose in there? Down the middle goes Speed Demon in the Acura, and he's going to take both of them, it looks like. Down the straight, briefly a 3-wide situation. No backing out from Speed Demon, straight through into 9th place. Lamborghini slotting back into his slipstream though. Can they make anything work by the end of the straight? No, they cannot. The final few corners of the lap coming up. 2 laps remaining in this race, and that was, even though he was just keeping his foot down as to the back as he lost it, he saved it, but he's lost some time. ADS could still manage to challenge Speed Demon back though. He was pretty much a sitting duck on that previous straight when the Acura got the double slipstream from the 2 Lamborghinis. But he's not going to be close enough into turn 1, so yeah. A daring move in a way from Speed Demon. You have to, you know, do you call it a skillful move? I would say yes, just for the sake that he didn't back out of it. And he looked like the door between the 2 Lamborghinis easily could have closed, but he stuck his nose in there, he forced his way through, and he gets 9th place as a result of it.
Yep, parting the Lamborghinis like the sea, like he did with Moses, like Moses did parting the Red Sea. Slipping down nicely between the 2 of them. Very, very good stuff there by Speed Demon and getting that position. And I'm actually going to jump up to the front of the field now as well, as Jardier hasn't really gained on Dowking, but he's been gaining on Leon. And Dowking has been gaining on Leon as well. Actually, I tell a lie, looking at their previous lap times. Jardier with an 8:10.7. Dowking with an 8:13.3, so 2.5 seconds faster by Jardier over Dowking, and then 2 seconds faster than Leon, almost. Very close.
I believe that might well be the fastest lap of the race from Jardier last time out.
Yeah.
But still work to do. You can see it here. Best lap for Leon, 11.3.
Actually, it's not.
It's not.
8:10.0 is the fastest lap.
Oh, he's gone even faster before.
Jardier does, yes. 7/10 faster.
Wow. But it doesn't feel like he's really getting closer to Dowking, regardless of putting those fast laps in, which is interesting.
I think he's actually dropped back off Dowking a little bit, certainly on this lap, anyway. Possibly at the end of the previous lap as well. Just overall, Jardier's lap has been quicker than Dowking's. Dowking's previous lap, such as the length of this track.
Yeah.
But yeah, the top three. We'd like to see them close up and battle in the last lap and a half that we have remaining in this race.
That certainly would top off what has been a fascinating race. It's not too often I get to commentate on a race around the Nordschleife, of course, and that's been fascinating. Oh, this is fascinating as well. Suomi, right on the back of Dakusa, who is back up to 6th position now. And they're battling very hard, it seems. Suomi wanting to find a way through, and these have been battling for a while, haven't they? I swear they were close earlier in the race as well.
They were. I think they parted slightly at some point. And yeah, actually, you're right. Earlier on in the race, they were actually very close because Suomi was battling. Dakusa was battling with the other M6 before they made a bit of contact, and then Suomi had this spin. So Suomi's managed to close back up again to Dakusa, who's getting all kinds of sideways in the traction zone of the previous corner. He's managed to hold on to it though and keep Suomi behind him, but it'll be interesting to see how this little fight will evolve this time round.
Certainly. They are in where are they? In the middle part of the lap somewhere. Yep. Oh, and that could be a potential chance. No, it's not. Dakusa was a little bit wide on the grass, lost some speed on the exit, but Suomi saw the danger in sticking his nose side by side there. Very tricky part of the circuit this. Oh, and he brakes late, nearly touching the back of Dakusa. Oh, he's using more of the track than Dakusa as well, is Suomi. But just you can see it here, watching from the bumper of the Lamborghini. There is, I mean, Dakusa's car is basically half of the track width, and it's so bumpy, and it is so narrow. It just can't do anything. Unless the car ahead, of course, has a clear, poor corner. Which nearly did before, but there wasn't a straight big enough for Suomi to take advantage, so Suomi staying behind for the time being. Having to stay concentrated as to both of them. There's another car not too far ahead as well. That's JK actually. He's been leading the race for quite a while. He's running in 5th. It's only 3 seconds ahead of Dakusa. Could be a three-way fight potentially. We'll see how this develops.
Certainly be a good one to watch. Just looking at the lap time difference between the guys, Suomi was a good 4.5 to 5 seconds quicker than Dakusa on the previous lap, and then JK's previous lap was his out lap, so we don't have anything representative on after his pit stop. So hopefully we'll get something from him in terms of his pace. Oh, on this lap. Oh,
second place is close.
Second place is close. You are right.
This has really closed up. Little mistake from Dalking, I would think, because he's further away from Leon than he was before. He's dropped a couple of seconds there. Just put him right in the clutches of the reigning double champion. Dalking is put the pressure on Jadier in both of the 2 races so far this season. In the first round, he only managed it for 3 laps. Last week he was ahead of Jadier for quite a while in the race until he got caught up in an incident with the Heidi, which put Jadier ahead. But now they are back at it again. Suomi is still keeping the pressure on Dakusa. So now we're suddenly in a situation again where it's hard to know where to watch, because it could well be an overtake for 2nd place. It could well be an overtake for 6th place in the near future.
I think we shall stick with this battle for now, considering they're coming up to the point where Jadier could be picking up the slipstream on Dowking coming down the Dottingham High. There you can see Leon the sick one off in the distance up ahead. If we jump to the roof cam, you can see that tiny little dot in the middle of the track coming up to the bridge.
That's Leon.
Yes. So the drivers can now see each other. Obviously Dowking and Jadier are going to have a better view of Leon than Leon's going to have of them. It doesn't really seem like Jadier is closing all that much at the moment. Now he's starting to get a little bit of speed momentum and a little bit of legs over Dowking. This is going to put him very, very close coming up into the next braking zone. Potential opportunity for passing coming into the start-finish straight. If Jardier can get a good run coming out the exit of this corner, going to jump on the bumper so he can get nice and close in with the action as he's trying to pick up the slipstream now. Coming down the start-finish straight down towards turn 1. He's trying to look for the inside. Dowking's going very, very defensive. He's going to pull out the slipstream now and going to be forced to go the long way around the outside. Who's going to be the later of the late breakers? It looks like Jardier. It looks like Jardier has taken the position, and he is going to secure that one quite nicely, very cleanly. Very good racing by both Jardier and Dowking.
Definitely, that is a good move there for Jardier, up to second place, and some more vital championship points for him against a championship rival, you have to say, so far in the season. Third place in the championship going into this, only behind Zenvo by 1 point, and of course Zenvo isn't scoring after his unfortunate contact with apparently contact with a car that caused the main damage to his car, even though it visually looked like it would have been the damage with the barrier. But either way, Zenvo is out of the race. Still 15 drivers remaining. We are watching the battle now with the Suomi in a 6th position, which means he's managed to get ahead of Dakusa then. Dakusa dropping into the clutches of Benizili now behind, and Suomi is rushing the attack on JK, our former race leader, which will now be for 5th position.
Yep, closing up onto the back of JK now. They've got 1 lap to go. This is the last lap of the race now, and Jardier on the previous lap has gone and set the fastest lap of the race, I believe. A NATO 9.9, dropping below that 8:10 mark that he was previously holding. Obviously, that would have been helped with the slipstream of Dowking that he overtook on that previous lap, so hopefully we shall see this battle unfold a little bit more. And actually Dakusa's gone and lost the position to Benizili as well in this lap, somewhere along the GP section. That's probably happened just out of shot. Didn't quite see that one.
Yeah, Benizili was behind going into turn 1, so he must have been in a different part of this GP layout. But either way, Benizili did a good job to get ahead of Dakusa. JK's defending. Oh, he's defending going into the chicane there just before we enter the Nordschleife section for the final time, and I think JK getting a little bit out of shape put Suomi off and has ended that battle very momentarily. I'm sure he'll be back on very soon indeed, as Benizili is trying to get close as well. Benizili eyeing up a potential top 5 finish in this race, sneaking up to the back of Suomi and JK. I have to say JK is the one who's been struggling with the pace most out of these guys. Just looking at the previous lap time and previous lap times in general. So he has a mighty defending job on his hands if he is to stay in this 5th position. We are on the final lap of the race, of course, which normally would mean that there's barely any time left in the race, but we still have about 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes.
Dowking climbing up all over the curbs and has actually gone and lost a lot of momentum and lost some ground because of that. I was going to say he was within half a second of Jardier holding onto the back of him, but he's now dropped to 1.2, 1.3 seconds behind. Also, it seemed temporarily before the gap reduced once again, and they're actually closing up on Leon as well. The gap's now down to 6 seconds between second place Jardier and Leon, who is currently holding in 1st. We'll jump back up to the battle for 5th position with JK, Suomi, Benizili and Dakusa, who seems to be struggling with pace, is actually losing touch with this battle. JK going very defensive there, coming into this tight and twisty section where there isn't really much opportunity for overtaking anyway, not unless you want to heavily risk the chance of making contact with another driver.
Definitely. It's about being patient here. Of course, everyone knows that at the end of the lap, at the end of this really, really long lap, there will be a humongous straight and a good chance for passing. Do you want to be ahead going on that straight, or do you want to be behind? That is the question. Suomi might feel like he has the pace if he was to manage to find a way through relatively soon, that he has the pace to pull a gap on JK to not be challenged on that straight. So it'll be interesting to see what he does. Will he be patient? Will he try to go for it somewhere in this more narrow path? Definitely very, very close behind JK. Impressive just to keep concentration on staying on the circuit with this kind of pressure behind him. He's doing a good job at the moment. We haven't really seen JK make any mistakes in the race so far. Yes, he's been struggling a little bit with pace relative to the other front runners, but he's not made any mistake. His car is still looking...
Say that.
Okay, I do. Yeah, okay. His car is looking super damaged, so he's had a lot of crashes.
We should avoid the commentator's curse.
I've done it too much this race already. But anyway, let's stop complimenting people until after the race then. But JK is still holding on at least to that 5th place. Suomi can't find a way through at this part of the circuit.
Yeah, if I was to be any of these 3 drivers at the moment, I'd probably prefer to be in Benizili's place. The reason why he's got a couple of car lengths between him and Suomi. He's got himself a little bit of breathing room. He's just going to let Suomi do all the work of all the battling.
There we go, though.
Is actually going for that position, and it looks like he's got it done on JK. Good move there to slip up and take 5th place, but JK looks like he's coming back. Not here though, not into this right-hander. That's going to be very difficult. Very, very good racing by these 2 drivers. Benizili is taking his time, sat behind them at the moment. JK unfortunately losing out of position there, and it's around about this time that Benizili, if he wants to try and keep with Suomi, he's going to need to try and get past Benizili pronto. Yeah,
through the carousel for the final time in the race for these guys. Still running line astern. 3-way battle there, but it looks like Suomi now is starting to stretch his legs just a little bit, pulling a few car lengths on JK. Going through this fast, twisty bit, which I tend to feel like we're now in the final part of the lap, because I kind of tend to, whenever I'm practicing this track, from the carousel and then further on is sort of the final part of the lap, even though it's several minutes long. So JK now, I think he has to start focusing on Benizili and keeping hold of 6th place, because Suomi is rapidly pulling away. These guys are nearly a minute off the lead, which means Leon can't have too much left of the race to go, actually. He's 4.5 seconds, and he is indeed coming onto that long straight right now, which means the most difficult corners are done for Leon the Sick when he's heading towards his first ever win in the AOR GT3 League in Tier 1. He's had 6 podiums previously, but he's never had a win, and he only needs to get through the final few corners to make this happen for him. Jadier, the reigning double champion, putting the pressure on, only 4 seconds behind him. He knows that he can't make a mistake, but he's handled the pressure magnificently, you have to say. And let's follow Leon through these final few corners. You can see Jadier in the Lamborghini, the Lamborghini, chasing behind the green Lamborghini. Looks to be getting the upper hand today. There he goes. No more corners for Leon to go. He only needs to keep his foot down across the line to win round 3 of season 11 of the AOR GT3 Tier 1 League. He's that happy that he spins across the line for his first win in the league. Jadier across in 2nd. I'm sure he'll be happy with that, starting from the back of the grid. Dalkin gets his 2nd podium in 3 races this season, and they're all celebrating with each other. Bo is going to come through the final few corners in an interesting manner to take 4th place, which I am thinking is his best result in this league as well. He's certainly very happy with that, flashing his lights, weaving towards the line. The really impressive race from Bo. Then Suomi will be the next man towards the line in 5th place after making that move on JK. And speaking of JK, he's actually got a bigger gap now to Benizili behind. So Benizili might have made a little mistake, or maybe they've had a little issue with each other at some point. But either way, Suomi coming through the final few corners to round off the top 5. You can see Bo is still doing donuts on the start-finish straight, celebrating his 4th place.
For him.
They're all waiting for Suomi to come across, and there we go. JK, who led for so many laps, started from the front.
Ouch.
Is going to cause a lot of damage after the line. Luckily, he managed to get through the whole race with no major damage to his car, which is very impressive around the Nurburgring for a 6th place finish ahead of Benizili. Then Dakusa in 8th place. Speed Demon coming home in 9th place. The final the final top 10 position is going to go to Waters, who we saw make some good moves in the early stages, but then he picked up some damage dropped down to 10th, had a penalty as well, but that is gonna matter because ADS is quite a few seconds behind, even though he's now as well coming onto the straight. Could have been better for ADS as well, but 11th place is at least some decent points. And then everyone remaining, we have actually 14 drivers now, so we've dropped another one in the recent couple of laps. So 14 finishers. Assuming John Beauregard, Lusty and Shooter can make it through the final part of this final lap, we will have 14 finishers out of 24 that were sat on the start grid an hour and a half ago.
Yep, just coming through the final section now. And I was actually watching the Benazili gap earlier on whilst we picked up Leon for the final moments of the race, and I believe Benazili just made a mistake as he was roughly about 6-7 tenths behind and then seemingly dropped off. That is looking like a very second-hand BMW right there. Quite a lot of damage for Lusty, who also recently picked up a penalty as well. What penalty did he get? He's got a 2-second penalty, so that would have been just for a simple breach of track limits. But I mean, he is now...
He doesn't have a front bumper, and his rear bumper is doing its best to fall off as well. Yep,
flapping away in the wind there, as you can see. But he's got plenty of time in hand to Shooter behind him. A good 1 minute and 20 odd seconds. Just coming down the Dottinger Hoe for the last time past the Taurus-Fahrten station there on the right hand side of the circuit, coming underneath the Bilstein Bridge, dropping down the hill for the fastest part of the circuit. What speed is he going to be doing? I can't see because the race complete sign is there in the way, blocking the speed that the guys are actually doing. Coming rather nice and tidily through the last couple of corners, taking it nice and easy, and then coming across the start finish line to take that 12th place.
There's still cars celebrating.
Yep. And then Shooter is going to be the last driver in his yellow M6.
Well, he's got quite a bit of the race left to go, actually.
He's got a bit of the circuit, yeah. A few corners, Dottinger Hoe, and then that final chicane. Seems like he's got a bit of damage to his windshield there, as you can see.
Yeah, fair play to these guys who have fallen way back to carry on and get their car to the end of the race. They're clearly going to be rewarded for it, picking up decent points. He will be 14th place because we had 14 on the grid as the race ended. There's now one that's dropped out of the lobby, so that's going to be a bit confusing for the result screen, I think. Dalking, that is, who should be in 3rd place. But and it was sad news on to Desert Pack. He was the last one we lost from the race. Apparently his game crashed. Yeah, after nearly getting to the end, which is quite gutting for him.
I was gonna say, in my race feed, it's saying that he retired, but obviously it seems like otherwise happened. But here comes Shooter then, the final car, the final driver to come through the final couple of turns and onto the start-finish straight to take the checkered flag and to complete our 1.5 hours of the Nordschleife combined circuit. So there we have it. That wraps up round 3 of race, filled with drama, both highs and lows for various different drivers throughout the grid. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. These are obviously the official race standings, and then here are the championship standings currently up to this point in season 11 as well. We're continuing to give you guys the rest of the rounds over the next few weeks. But that is going to conclude it for this episode. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them down in the comment section below. If you stuck with us all the way through to the end of the video, thank you very much. Massively appreciate that. Hopefully, I will see you again in the near future. But until then, have fun, stay safe, and take care.